Rain pelts my black umbrella in a steady, merciless rhythm as I stand alone at the edge of my mother's grave. The cemetery stretches before me, a field of granite markers and sodden flowers under a dismal Seattle sky. My heels sink into mud with each shifting movement, as if the earth itself wants to pull me down alongside the polished mahogany casket that shouldn't be closed. Preservation issues, the hospital had warned. Best not to view the body. Mourners cluster in small, hushed groups beneath a canopy of black umbrellas, their whispers barely audible above the drumming rain. Aunt Susan catches my eye from across the grave, her face a mask of composed grief as she clutches a bouquet of lilies now drooping in the downpour. I scan the gathered faces once more, searching for the one person who should be here but isn't. "If you can hear me, Mom," I whisper, "please give me a sign that any of this makes sense." Only the rain answers, trickling down my neck despite my umbrella's protection. From the corner of my eye, I notice a woman in hospital scrubs standing apart from the other mourners. She watches me with an expression I can't quite read, something beyond sympathy, closer to unease. When our eyes meet, she turns away quickly, hurrying toward the parking area. Something about her seems familiar, but grief has made everything foggy. My phone buzzes in my coat pocket. I shouldn't check it, not here at my mother's graveside, but hope flickers briefly that it might be him, that my father might have a legitimate reason for missing his wife's funeral. "Sorry, honey. Emergency meeting in Hawaii. Call you later." The text message blurs as rain splashes onto my screen. Or maybe it's tears. I swipe the notification away, then hesitate before opening Instagram. I know what I'll find, but I need to see it anyway. There he is. Douglas Hayes, respected real estate developer, smiling broadly beside his young assistant Miranda Voss against a backdrop of swaying palms and sunset. "New Horizons," reads the caption. Posted 3 hours ago. The image summons a memory from 3 months earlier, my father's voice booming through my mother's art gallery after hours. I'd arrived to pick up Mom for dinner, freezing in the doorway at what I was witnessing. "It's part of the company now, Eleanor," he had shouted, looming over my mother's slender frame. "You signed the papers." "I signed nothing," Mom had replied, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "The gallery stays mine." The funeral director touches my elbow gently, pulling me back to the present. "Miss Hayes, whenever you're ready." I nod, realizing the other mourners have already begun drifting away. Time to drop the ceremonial handful of dirt onto the casket of the woman who taught me everything except how to live without her. The drive home from the cemetery passes in a blur of windshield wipers and brake lights. I take the long route, past my mother's beloved art gallery in the heart of downtown. The familiar storefront that once showcased local artists now sports a garish banner. "Coming soon. Hayes Luxury Properties." My stomach twists as I slow the car, remembering how my mother's eyes would light up when describing her latest exhibition. 2 weeks after her unexpected heart attack, and already her legacy is being erased. My apartment overlooking Lake Union feels hollow when I finally arrive, dripping rainwater onto the hardwood floors. I peel off my soaked coat and kick off my mud-caked heels, seeking comfort in the familiar. A framed photo on my dresser catches my eye. My mother at the gallery opening 5 years ago, vibrant and smiling, champagne glass raised in triumph. "You always fought for what was yours," I whisper to her image. Unlike me, I've spent my entire architectural career at Hayes Development, working twice as hard as anyone else just to prove I wasn't there through nepotism, yet always existing in my father's shadow, always seeking his approval while fearing his criticism. The phone rings, my father's name flashing on the screen. I consider ignoring it, but 28 years of conditioning doesn't vanish overnight, even on the day of your mother's funeral. "Brittany, we need to discuss some necessary paperwork." His voice is all business, as if we'd just left a boardroom meeting rather than my mother's burial. "What paperwork?" I ask, though I already suspect. "I need you to sign some transfers. Your mother's estate, there are formalities, documents that need your signature as next of kin. I'll have them ready tomorrow." I close my eyes, picturing him in his Hawaiian hotel, perhaps still wearing the lei from the Instagram photo. I need time. The silence that follows speaks volumes. Douglas Hayes doesn't hear no very often, especially from me. "Time is money, Brittany," he says finally, ice-coating each syllable. "Tomorrow." The line goes dead before I can respond. Outside my window, thunder growls across Lake Union as lightning briefly illuminates the churning water. I press my palm against the cold glass, watching my reflection waver in the sudden flashes of light. I won't let you erase her, I whisper to the storm. My phone buzzes again at midnight. I've been sitting in darkness for hours, rain still lashing against the windows as I try to make sense of a world without Eleanor Hayes in it. I grab my phone, expecting another demand from my father. The contact name stops my breath. Mom. My fingers tremble as I unlock the screen to read the message. I'm not dead. Come to the cemetery. Now. I stare at the screen, heart hammering against my ribs. My mother's phone had gone missing at the hospital, the nurses said. It must have been misplaced during the chaos of her cardiac arrest. I grab my coat and keys, hand trembling as lightning flashes once more, casting grotesque shadows across my apartment walls. The windshield wipers battle against sheets of rain as I race toward the cemetery, my tires hissing against wet pavement. Seattle drowns beneath a midnight downpour that turns streetlights into blurred halos. Each flash of lightning makes me flinch, illuminating the impossibility of the message still glowing on my phone's screen. I'm not dead. Come to the cemetery. Now. My mother's voice echoes in my head as I grip the steering wheel tighter. Eleanor Hayes died of a heart attack. I watched them lower her casket into the ground this morning. Yet something about the closed casket, the missing phone, the nurse who wouldn't meet my eyes, pieces of a puzzle I can't assemble. I turn into the cemetery entrance, headlights cutting through the darkness. The gates should be locked at this hour, but they stand open, as if expecting me. Through the rain-streaked windshield, I spot a silver SUV parked near my mother's fresh grave, its lights off. A solitary figure stands beneath a massive oak tree, sheltered somewhat from the downpour. My heart hammers against my ribs as I park and kill the engine. Rain pounds against the roof in a deafening crescendo as I fumble for my umbrella, then abandon it. What does getting wet matter anymore? I push open the car door and step into the storm. The beam of my headlights catches the figure as I approach, and I freeze mid-stride. It can't be. It's impossible. But there she stands, pale but unmistakable. My mother, Brittany. Her voice carries over the rain, a sound I never thought I'd hear again. I can't move, can't speak. She steps forward and takes my trembling hand, pulling me toward the SUV. Quickly. We don't have much time. Inside the vehicle, the sudden silence after the rain feels deafening. Eleanor Hayes sits beside me, very much alive, her hands folded in her lap. Water drips from my hair, my clothes, pooling on the leather seat beneath me. How? My voice breaks. I reach out to touch her face, half expecting my hand to pass through her like a ghost. But her skin is warm, real. Douglas has been threatening me for months, she says, her voice steady but quiet. He's been tampering with my heart medication. The words hang in the air between us. My father, the respected businessman, the community leader, the man who raised me, a would-be murderer? Martha Keegan, the nurse you saw at the funeral, she noticed something was wrong. She saw your father switching my pills the day before my supposed heart attack. My mother's fingers twist together. She helped me fake my death. There was a car accident victim, similar build, similar age. The doctor signed the certificate, thinking he was helping a domestic abuse victim escape. I stare at her, processing the unthinkable truth. The closed casket, the hurried funeral. My father's absence not to attend an emergency meeting, but to celebrate what he thought was his success. I don't understand. Why would he? See? My mother reaches into her bag and pulls out her phone. Listen. She presses play on a recording. My father's voice fills the car, clinical and cold. She's worth more dead than alive. Rain drums against the roof as my mother continues unfolding a nightmare. Douglas Hayes, respected real estate developer, pillar of the Seattle business community, had been plotting her death for months. His young assistant Miranda Voss wasn't just his mistress but his co-conspirator. It's about control of the company, my mother explains. My 41% of shares. With me gone and you manipulated into signing them over, Douglas would have complete control. The pieces click together with sickening clarity, the transfer papers he wanted me to sign tomorrow, the rushed timeline, the Hawaiian business trip, that was really a celebration of his successful plot. Martha smuggled me to a safe house outside Portland, my mother continues, showing me documents detailing offshore accounts, a folder of evidence she'd been gathering. We had to move quickly. I stare at a bottle of pills in her hand, not her usual heart medication, but foreign tablets with unfamiliar markings. The truth crashes over me with the force of the storm outside. "He tried to kill you," I whisper, the words burning my throat. My mother nods, her eyes never leaving mine. "And he would have succeeded if Martha hadn't been paying attention." I think of every dinner where my father dominated the conversation, every family decision he controlled, every time my mother's opinions were dismissed. Years of watching him manipulate us both, making us doubt ourselves, keeping us dependent on his approval. I've been blind my whole life, haven't I? The question emerges as barely more than a whisper. My mother reaches across to take my hand, her touch anchoring me as lightning flashes outside the windows. "We both were," she says gently. "Until now." A tap on the window makes us both jump. Martha Keegan stands in the rain, clutching a folder to her chest. My mother unlocks the door, and the nurse slides into the back seat, bringing with her the smell of antiseptic and rain. "I brought the updated hospital records," Martha says, passing the folder forward. Her face is drawn with exhaustion, but her eyes are sharp with purpose. "Security footage shows him entering your room alone the night before. I tried telling the hospital administration, but no one believed me. Your husband has too many friends in high places." Martha risked everything, my mother explains. Her career, her nursing license. "She saved my life." "I saw what he was doing," Martha says simply. "I couldn't stand by and watch." "My attorney, Charlotte Wells, connected us with the FBI's white-collar crimes unit," my mother continues. "They've been building a case, but we need more evidence of the financial fraud." The weight of what they're asking settles over me. I would need to return home, pretend I know nothing, act normal around a father I now know is capable of murder. "He can never know she's alive until we have everything," Martha warns. "You'll need to be very careful, Brittany. Your father is watching you closely." The rain begins to ease as we form a plan. I'll return to my apartment before dawn, prepare for tomorrow's meeting with my father, create a diversion that buys us time. Martha explains how to secretly document anything I find, how to communicate safely. "I've seen your father's type before," she says, her voice hard with experience. "Men who think they own everything, including the people around them." By the time I drive back toward the city, the first hint of gray is lightening the eastern horizon. I'm soaked and shaking, not just from the cold but from the knowledge now burning inside me. My phone buzzes with a text from my father. 8 a.m. my office. Bring ID for notary. Back at my apartment, I call work with a fabricated illness excuse. I know my father monitors my office, checking who I talk to, what projects I handle. Today, I can't risk his scrutiny. On my dining table, I create a folder labeled Mom's Estate, with dummy documents enough to look legitimate if he searches my apartment. The weight of knowing my father is capable of murder presses down on me with each breath. But for the first time in my life, I see through his manipulation clearly. The way he's always positioned himself as the authority, the decision-maker, the one who knows best. How easily I've accepted his version of reality, even when it contradicted what I saw with my own eyes. Dawn breaks fully as I change into dry clothes, my movements mechanical. In a few hours, I'll sit across from my father and pretend I don't know he's a murderer. I'll smile and nod and play the dutiful daughter while looking for evidence to bring him down. It's terrifying, but for the first time, I'm seeing the world and my father with absolute clarity. Rain hammers against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my father's corner office, the sound a relentless backdrop to my racing heart. I stand before his imposing glass desk, trying to appear composed while my fingers tremble slightly against my thigh. The Seattle skyline beyond the windows is barely visible through sheets of water, the city swallowed by the same storm that started the day we buried my mother's empty casket. Douglas Hayes looks immaculate in his tailored navy suit, not a hint of jet lag despite his overnight flight from Hawaii. His silver hair catches the harsh fluorescent lighting as he slides a leather folder across the glass surface. "Everything's prepared," he says, voice measured and professional. "Standard transfer documentation for your mother's assets. Just your signature needed here." He taps a manicured finger against a yellow sticky note marking the spot. I glance at the document, my stomach dropping when I notice what appears to be my mother's signature already there, perfect in every loop and curve. A forgery. "I'd like time to review these first," I say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. His expression doesn't change, but something flickers behind his eyes, a momentary crack in his professional veneer. There's nothing to review, Brittany. It's standard paperwork. Your mother and I discussed all this before her. He pauses, clearing his throat. Before her passing. My gaze drifts past him to the credenza where several framed photographs sit. Douglas and Miranda in Maui, arms around each other's waists, tropical drinks in hand. The caption might as well read, "Celebrating my wife's death," instead of "New Horizons." The office door opens without a knock, and Miranda steps in wearing a cream-colored pencil skirt and silk blouse. Her smile appears sympathetic, but her eyes are calculating. "I brought those projection figures you asked for," she says to my father, placing a folder beside him before turning to me. "Brittany, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your father has worked so hard to keep the company together through all this." I nod stiffly, noting how she positions herself slightly behind my father's chair, her hand resting possessively on its leather back. "We need to finalize these transfers today," my father continues, pushing the folder closer to me. "The board is expecting resolution." He leans forward, lowering his voice. "Your mother would want this wrapped up quickly." The mention of my mother makes something shift inside me. My eyes drift to the wall behind him, where a family portrait hangs my father, mother, and me, at my college graduation. But what catches my attention isn't the forced smiles or my mother's already thinning frame. It's what lies behind the portrait, a slight rectangular outline in the walnut paneling. A safe. And as my father turns to accept a document from Miranda, I catch a glimpse of the keypad. 4 digits still visible on the display. 0427. April 27th, my mother's birthday. "I'll need to review these tonight," I say, reaching for the folder before he can protest. Surprise flickers across his face, quickly replaced by calculated relief. "Of course. Good girl." He leans back, a slight smile playing at his lips. "I always knew you'd understand business. This transition will be smoother with your cooperation." I tuck the folder into my bag, feeling strangely calm. For the first time in my life, I see my father clearly not as the intimidating business titan I've always feared, but as a man who completely underestimates me. "I'll bring them back tomorrow," I say, turning to leave. "Have Miranda set an appointment," he calls after me. "I've got back-to-back meetings all day." I step into the elevator, expecting relief to wash over me, now that I'm away from his presence. Instead, I feel a strange clarity, like fog lifting from a familiar landscape to reveal unexpected terrain. The elevator doors nearly close before a manicured hand stops them. Miranda slips inside, her perfume overwhelming in the confined space. "He's been through so much," she says, pressing the lobby button. "Losing Eleanor has been devastating for him." I study her profile, noticing the careful application of her makeup, the practiced sympathy in her expression. "Interesting choice of words," I respond. "Losing her." Miranda's head snaps toward me, her composure slipping for just a moment. "Excuse me?" People don't usually say someone lost a spouse when they died. They say they lost them when they go missing. I maintain steady eye contact. Or, when they're taken. Her perfect complexion flushes slightly. "Watch yourself, Brittany. Grief makes people irrational." "Actually," I say, as the elevator doors open to the lobby, "I'm thinking more clearly than ever." I step out, feeling her eyes burning into my back as I cross the marble floor toward the revolving doors. Through the glass walls, I see Miranda already on her phone, lips moving rapidly as she glances in my direction, reporting back to my father. No doubt, something has fundamentally shifted between us. For the first time in my life, I've made Douglas Hayes uncomfortable in his own territory. The afternoon rain has lightened to a drizzle as I walk 6 blocks to Westlake Coffee, constantly checking to ensure I'm not followed. Inside, Martha Keegan sits at a corner table, her hospital scrubs replaced by jeans and a raincoat. Beside her is a slender woman with silver-streaked hair pulled into a severe bun. "Brittany," Martha says, standing to greet me. "This is Charlotte Wells, your mother's attorney." Charlotte's handshake is firm, her gaze assessing. "Your mother speaks highly of you. The FBI needs concrete evidence of financial fraud." She continues without preamble, keeping her voice low. "They've been watching your father for months, but they need something definitive to move forward." Martha slides her phone across the table, showing security footage of a hospital corridor. This was taken the night before your mother's supposed death. Douglas entering her room alone, 15 minutes before her first cardiac episode. I watch my father's familiar figure stride confidently past the nurse's station, checking his watch as he pushes open room 412. My phone vibrates with an incoming call, an unlisted number. I answer hesitantly. Brittany. My mother's voice, weak but unmistakable. The offshore accounts were just the beginning. There's more. Miranda isn't just his assistant, she's his partner in everything. I grip the phone tighter. How much do they know at the FBI? A new voice joins the conversation. Agent Morales, White Collar Crimes Unit. We have fragments, Miss Hayes, but we need the complete picture. Your father keeps a flash drive in his office safe. That's where he stores everything incriminating too sensitive for servers or clouds. I think of the safe behind the family portrait, the keypad displaying my mother's birthday. I know how to get it. Martha leans forward. How? I've been invisible to him my whole life. That's about to become useful. I explain what I've seen. The safe, the keypad code, my access card, that still works after hours. Charlotte taps her pen against her legal pad. If you're caught, it's breaking and entering. I'm an employee entering my workplace, I counter. And the documents in that safe may prove he tried to kill my mother. Martha checks her watch. I can create a diversion call about a discrepancy in your mother's medical records. That should keep security busy for at least 15 minutes. Charlotte tears a sheet from her pad, writing rapidly. I'll have these documents ready in case you're questioned. Legal representation. Cease and desist against any charges your father might fabricate. I look between these women, strangers days ago, now risking everything to help me. A realization washes over me, powerful in its simplicity. My whole life I've been afraid of him, I whisper. Not anymore. Night falls as I drive back to the Hayes building, city lights reflecting in puddles from the day's rain. For the first time, I'm not reacting to my father's moves, I'm making my own. The underground parking garage is nearly empty at 9 p.m. I use my employee access card at the service entrance, heart thudding as the reader blinks green. Martha's diversion must have worked. The security desk is vacant. A half-eaten sandwich and coffee abandoned. I disable the hallway camera with the phone jammer Martha provided, then make my way to the executive floor. Each step echoes in the empty corridor, my breath coming in shallow bursts. My father's office door yields to my employee keycard. Inside, darkness is broken only by the city lights filtering through rain-streaked windows. I move to the family portrait, fingers trembling as I slide it aside to reveal the keypad. 0427. Nothing happens. I try again, more carefully. 0427. Still nothing. My mind races. What if he changed it? What if I misread the numbers? I close my eyes, forcing myself to think. April 27th. My mother's birthday. But the company started in 1987. Maybe. 042787. The safe clicks open. Inside, organized with my father's typical precision, are folders labeled with offshore bank accounts, transfer records, and contracts for shell companies I've never heard of. And there, nestled between them, a black flash drive labeled simply, confidential. As I pull it out, something else catches my eye. A photograph of my mother, her smiling face marred by a red X drawn across it. My hands shake as I slot the flash drive into my laptop, quickly copying its contents. My phone buzzes with an incoming text. Douglas Hayes. You think I wouldn't notice, Brittany? A second message follows immediately. A security alert showing my father's car entering the parking garage. I quickly replace the flash drive, close the safe, and slide the portrait back into position. The elevator indicator in the hallway shows the car rising from the parking level. There's nowhere to run. I stand in the center of my father's office, evidence clutched in my hand, and make my decision. No more running. My heart pounds against my ribs as I quickly return every document to its exact position in the safe. With trembling fingers, I press one thumb deliberately against the metal edge, leaving a single fingerprint, a calculated breadcrumb. The conference room adjoining my father's office offers the only escape route, its door ajar just enough for me to slip through as the elevator dings in the main hallway. From my hiding place, I watch Douglas stride into his office with Miranda trailing behind him like a sleek shadow. Their reflections distort in the glass walls as they move directly to the portrait concealing the safe. She's been here, Douglas mutters, examining the keypad with narrowed eyes. His voice carries through the thin wall as he swings the safe door open, inspecting the contents. Miranda presses a manicured hand against the wall, leaning closer. She couldn't have gotten far. Security is watching all exits. Check her office, Douglas orders, slamming the safe shut with enough force to rattle the family portrait. I want to know exactly what she took. I press myself against the wall as they split up, Miranda's heels clicking toward the elevator while Douglas rifles through papers on his desk. The moment they're both distracted, I slip into the service corridor, the forgotten passageway maintenance uses. Its existence overlooked on building schematics, but essential to my architectural knowledge of the Hayes building. The flash drive burns in my pocket as I navigate the dimly lit hallway, past storage closets and electrical panels, emerging finally into the parking garage 2 floors below. The next morning, my phone erupts with notifications. 12 missed calls from Douglas, 8 from Miranda. 3 voicemails, each more threatening than the last. "Come home, Brittany. Let's talk this through like adults," my father's voice says in the first message, deceptively calm. The second, "Whatever you think you have, it won't hold up. You're making a terrible mistake." The third chills my blood. "Perhaps another funeral will be needed if this continues. Your choice." When I arrive at work, whispers follow me through the corridors. My office door stands open, though I'd locked it yesterday. Inside, drawers hang open, files displaced, my computer obviously searched. From across the office landscape, I spot Miranda huddled with my coworker, Jessica, both glancing my way with furrowed brows. "We're concerned about her mental state," Miranda says loudly enough for me to hear. "Grief affects people in unpredictable ways." By lunchtime, my corporate credit card is declined at the cafe across the street. When I check my banking app, access has been revoked. A notification appears from Hayes Financial Services. "Accounts temporarily frozen for your protection during this difficult time." Outside my apartment that evening, an unfamiliar black sedan idles across the street, its occupant obscured behind tinted windows. When I drive to the grocery store, the same car follows 3 lengths behind. I don't return home that night. "You've got enough for us to start moving," Charlotte tells me over a secure line from a budget hotel room I've paid for in cash. Her voice is firm with restrained excitement. "I've transferred the files to a secure server. Agent Morales confirmed they've traced 2 shell companies already." "Is my mother safe?" I ask, watching raindrops trace jagged patterns down the window. "Martha arranged secure transportation to the safe house yesterday," Charlotte answers. "They've doubled security precautions." "He's going to keep coming after me," I say, watching headlights sweep across the parking lot, checking for the black sedan. "That's what cornered predators do," Charlotte replies. "But evidence doesn't disappear just because he wants it to." I remember the countless times my father's disapproval silenced me, how his raised eyebrow could redirect my entire life's trajectory. "He taught me to fear him," I whisper. "Now I'll teach him to fear the truth." 2 days later, Douglas calls an emergency family meeting at my Aunt Susan's house. I don't attend, but the details reach me through Susan's furious phone call afterward. "He had the nerve to say you're unwell with grief." Susan fumes. "Talked about temporary guardianship proceedings, Brittany. Said you're not yourself and need supervision." "What did everyone say?" I ask, pacing the new hotel room, my 3rd in 5 days. "Dr. Levin refused to sign anything. Said he'd examined you after your mother's funeral and found you perfectly sound," Susan explains. And I asked some pointed questions about his relationship with Miranda. "The timing seemed convenient," I said. I smile faintly, picturing my father's face as his usually compliant family questioned him. "There's more," Susan continues. 3 board members received anonymous emails about financial irregularities. Douglas is furious, demanding an investigation into corporate espionage. Charlotte calls that evening, her voice triumphant. "We've filed an emergency injunction against the guardianship attempt." Martha provided a sworn statement about the medication tampering. "They can't touch you legally now." Even better news arrives the following day. Eleanor recorded a video testimony with the FBI, Agent Morales tells me, during our secure call, date-stamped and notarized. "We're ready to move on the financial charges, but we need you at the safe house. A car will pick you up at 8 tonight." The black sedan no longer follows me, Douglas's attention now diverted by the legal storm brewing around him. In its place, an unmarked federal vehicle maintains discreet distance, ensuring my safety until I reach the safe house. I watch Seattle's familiar skyline recede in the rearview mirror, rain washing down the windows as we head toward Portland. My phone buzzes with news notifications. Hayes Development stock drops 17% on governance concerns. Another text arrives from my father. This can all go away, Brittany. One meeting? That's all I ask. I don't respond. The next morning brings a federal subpoena for Douglas's financial records, according to Charlotte's update. 3 board members have requested an emergency meeting. Miranda's deleted all her Instagram photos with him. Martha tells me when I finally arrive at the safe house, exhaustion washing over me as I cross the threshold into safety. She's distancing herself, rats deserting the sinking ship. My mother waits inside, pale but standing, her eyes bright with resolve. For the first time since the funeral, we embrace, planning our final confrontation, while rain taps against the windows. That evening, an unexpected text arrives from Miranda. He's not who I thought he was. Be careful. Agent Morales updates us as darkness falls. He appeared on a business news segment today. Looked disheveled, kept losing his train of thought. He's liquidating accounts, Brittany. Making preparations to flee. My mother and I exchange glances across the safe house kitchen table, both recognizing the cornered animal preparing for escape. I think of all the times Douglas Hayes made others run from him, all the lives disrupted by his calculated cruelty. ADM. He's not running from this? I say, finally feeling strength, replace fear. Not from us. 2 days later, Douglas's attorney slides a thick manila folder across the polished conference table. His voice is professionally detached, but his eyes betray calculation as they track my reaction. A reasonable settlement offer, Miss Hayes. Sign the non-disclosure agreement, drop all allegations, and your accounts will be restored immediately. He adjusts his tie, a nervous tell-I catalog. Your position at Hayes Development awaits your return. Your father is eager to put this unfortunate misunderstanding behind you both. I leave the folder untouched. Rain streams down the office windows, casting wavering shadows across the document that would erase my mother's truth. Unfortunate misunderstanding? I repeat, tasting the bitterness of the words. Is that what we're calling attempted murder now? The attorney's smile tightens. Your father asked me to remind you that he's prepared for years of litigation should this continue. He's devastated by your accusations. The conference room door opens. Uncle David enters, my father's oldest friend, his face a mask of practiced concern. Brittany, please. Think about what you're doing to this family. His voice drops to a confidential whisper. Your father hasn't slept in weeks. He misses you. I stand, gathering my coat. Tell him I said hello. Back at the safe house, Charlotte paces the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear. Her expression darkens as she listens, and my stomach knots before she even speaks. The federal judge delayed the arrest warrant. She sets the phone down carefully, too carefully. They need additional evidence linking Douglas directly to the medication tampering. Eleanor looks up from her tea, face pale beneath the kitchen's harsh fluorescent light. How much more evidence do they need? We have the recordings, the offshore accounts. Martha's nursing license has been temporarily suspended pending investigation, Charlotte interrupts gently. And Miranda has disappeared, along with some key financial documents. My mother's hands begin to tremble. Weeks of hiding has worn her thin. The constant vigilance, the stress of playing dead while my father lives freely, it shows in the new lines around her eyes, the way her clothes hang loose on her frame. There's more, Charlotte continues, avoiding my gaze. Your father's legal team has filed motions to access cell tower data from the area surrounding this property. They're getting close, Brittany. Eleanor sets down her cup with a clatter. I can't hide forever. My heart. She presses a hand to her chest, breathing shallow. The medication I'm on now isn't enough. I need to see my regular doctor. I watch rain streak the kitchen window, thinking of all the times I've acquiesced to my father's will, all the times I swallowed my words to keep peace. The pattern stretches back through my entire life, a daughter trained to yield, to accommodate, to shrink. We're done hiding, I announce, the decision crystallizing as I speak. Eleanor looks up sharply. What are you planning? Exactly what he fears most. I meet her eyes steadily. The truth. 2 nights later, headlights cut through sheets of rain, sweeping across the safe house windows as a car pulls into the gravel driveway. Eleanor retreats to the hallway as instructed. Out of sight but within earshot, Charlotte stands ready with her phone, Agent Morales on speed dial. The pounding on the door reverberates through the small house. My father's voice bellows through the wooden barrier. "Open up, Brittany! Let's end this game!" I count to 10, breathing deeply, then open the door. Rain lashes sideways, soaking Douglas Hayes within seconds. His tailored suit clings to his frame, his normally perfect hair plastered against his forehead. Despite his disheveled appearance, power radiates from him, the same intimidating energy that kept me compliant for 28 years. I step back, allowing him entry but saying nothing. He bursts in, trailing rainwater across the hardwood floor. "You've destroyed everything." His voice shakes with barely controlled fury. "Years of work, my reputation, the company, all because you couldn't simply sign the papers." I maintain eye contact, refusing to look away as I once would have. "Is that why you're here? For my signature?" "You don't understand what's at stake." He runs a hand through his wet hair, pacing the small living room. "Your mother was going to ruin everything I built. She never understood business, the necessary sacrifices." "Douglas." The voice from the hallway stops him mid-sentence. He freezes, color draining from his face as Eleanor steps into the light. She looks frail but resolute, her presence undeniable. "You tried to erase me," she says quietly. He stares as if seeing a ghost, which in his mind, she is. "You don't understand what she took from me," he whispers hoarsely. Eleanor takes another step forward. "You took everything." His composure fractures. With a guttural sound, he lunges toward Eleanor. Before he reaches her, the front door bursts open. FBI agents flood the room, led by Agent Morales, weapons drawn. Through the rain-streaked window, I glimpse Miranda watching from a car across the street, her face pale in the dashboard light. "Douglas Hayes," Morales announces clearly. "You're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and attempted homicide." As they handcuff him, I step closer, meeting his eyes one final time. "You were under investigation the moment you moved that money offshore. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the transfers?" "I'm an architect, Dad. I notice details." Eleanor approaches slowly, her voice steady. "You destroyed yourself, Douglas." Charlotte enters with a thick evidence binder. "We have everything, Douglas." Miranda has agreed to cooperate as a state's witness. Agent Morales reads the charges while an agent documents the arrest. Offshore accounts totaling $4.8 million in fraudulent transfers. Phone recordings where you stated, and I quote, "She's worth more dead than alive." Medication tampering documented by Nurse Keegan. My father looks smaller somehow, shoulders hunched as the gravity of his situation sinks in. His eyes find mine, a desperate appeal in them. "I'm still your father," he says, voice barely audible above the rain. I study his face, the man I feared and admired my entire life. Not anymore. They lead him to the waiting FBI vehicle. Miranda's statement has already been recorded, a full confession detailing her role in exchange for reduced charges. Eleanor watches from the doorway, supported by Charlotte, as the car containing Douglas disappears into the storm. "It's finally over," Eleanor whispers, her voice trembling with relief and exhaustion. I put my arm around her shoulders, feeling the fragility of her frame, the strength of her spirit. Lightning flashes, illuminating our reflection in the window, mother and daughter, survivors together. My phone buzzes with an incoming text. Martha's name appears on the screen, followed by 5 words that send a chill down my spine. "This isn't over. Trial next." Rain taps against the courthouse windows as I sit beside my mother in the front row. The Oregon courtroom feels lighter than it should, despite the weight of the last 6 months hanging in the air. At the defense table, my father slumps, unshaven and hollow-eyed in his prison jumpsuit. I barely recognize him anymore. The prosecutor closes her binder with a decisive thump. The state has demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt that Douglas Hayes attempted to murder his wife, commit financial fraud, and manipulate evidence. My mother squeezes my hand as Charlotte approaches the stand with our final evidence. I watch the jury's faces as she displays the flash drive contents on the courtroom monitor: offshore transfers, shell companies, and the photo of my mother with that hateful red X drawn across her face. When my turn comes, I walk to the stand without trembling. The combination to my father's safe was my mother's birthday. I testify, meeting his gaze directly for the first time. He never imagined I would use that knowledge against him. The jury deliberates for only 4 hours. When they return with their verdict, the foreman's voice echoes through the silent courtroom. On all counts, we find the defendant guilty. 27 years. No possibility of parole for 18. Numbers that mean my father will be an old man before he breathes free air again. Later, Mom and I push through the courthouse doors to face a wall of reporters and camera flashes. Rain falls steadily around us, but neither of us bothers with umbrellas. Mom tilts her face upward, letting the droplets wash over her skin. "Different rain this time," she says softly. I look at her profile, strong and serene despite everything. Different us. A reporter shoves a microphone toward my mother. "Mrs. Hayes, your ex-husband claimed in his final statement that he did it all for the family business. Any response?" Mom straightens her shoulders. Some chapters need to end before others can begin. We drive along the coastal highway toward our home, windows cracked despite the weather. The scent of pine and salt air fills the car. "He made me believe strength was cruelty," I say, watching raindrops race across my window. That standing up for myself meant hurting others. Mom turns toward me. "And now?" I know the difference between power and strength. The judge's order still feels surreal. $3.2 million of seized assets directed to fund the Haven Project, the nonprofit my mother established to help women escape financial abuse. Not everything Douglas took, but enough to start building something that matters. Our coastal home appears around the bend, weathered cedar shingles glowing warm against the gray sky. Inside, paintings lean against walls waiting to be hung, my mother's work for her gallery reopening next month in Portland. In the studio overlooking the ocean, architectural plans for the Haven Project's first building spread across my drafting table. Martha visits the following weekend, bringing news that her nursing license has been fully restored. She joins us on the porch with mugs of coffee as Charlotte's car pulls into the driveway. "First celebration of many," Charlotte says, producing a bottle of champagne. The Haven Project's first client signed a lease on her new storefront yesterday. I think of the young woman who approached me after my speech at the women's shelter last month, eyes brimming with tears. "You gave me hope," she'd whispered. "Hope is just the beginning," I'd told her. That evening, Mom and I sit on the porch watching the sunset paint the ocean copper. Wind rustles through coastal pines as night approaches. "I've always wondered," I say, wrapping my hands around my mug. "Who sent that text that night at the cemetery? From your phone?" Mom smiles softly. "It was Martha. She used my old phone." I nod slowly. Then she saved both of us. My phone rings. A reporter asking about Douglas's appeal. I decline politely. "We don't need revenge to win," I tell Mom after hanging up. Just the truth. Morning arrives with unusual clarity. No rain today. Mom and I share coffee on the porch as dawn spreads across the water. "The gallery opens in 3 weeks," she says, pride evident in her voice. I glance at my laptop open to praise for my latest architectural project, no longer in my father's shadow but standing in my own light. On the screen, applications from 3 more states requesting Haven Project branches. I whisper into the morning wind, an old habit from the funeral that now carries different weight. "Good night, Mom." She smiles, understanding. For the first time since that rainy day at the cemetery, the sea before us is perfectly calm.